every time we'd come around on these loops, I just kept waiting to see the girls that were chasing me down and who were going to pass me. Their first batch of hens they got were battery hens. So they're the hens that are just confined in this tiny little cage their whole life, used just to be producing eggs. And so it's not a healthy existence. They usually come out of there in really rough shape, and these hens were about to be gassed. The people that come to visit, I think, are sometimes surprised at how loving a chicken can be, that a chicken likes to be held and likes to be loved and likes the attention, where people don't think of them like that. And they'll come and meet a pig that'll come running up to you, happy to see you, and be like, oh wow, they really are like dogs.
Laura Kline is a multi-sport athlete from the United States of America who has competed in many competitions, including winning a World Championship duathlon event. Alongside this, she is a passionate vegan who has managed to combine her two big loves. So my first question to you, Laura, is what is your vegan story?
Well, my vegan story started out actually, I became vegetarian first. And that was the age of 23. I had graduated, after graduating college, I moved out west to California. I was married at the time and just kind of settling into that life where I'm making dinner every night and going with the typical American meals, which would consist of like a meat product and like a starch or a carb and then vegetable. So I just, in preparing these raw meats, it just really started to disgust me. And I, after time, I started thinking about what it was I was handling. This was another being's flesh, and I thought it was disgusting and it just wasn't right. So finally in 2001, on New Year's Day, I decided I would never eat meat again. And I never did. So at the time, I didn't know any other vegetarians, just kind of doing it on my own. And it wasn't until a few years later, in 2005, I read the book Skinny Bitch. And they go into, I had never really learned about or heard about any of the animal rights issues that go along with being vegan. But just in reading that book, and there was a particular chapter about how these animals are treated.
The reality.
Yeah. And also even just what they had to say about dairy in general, which is so very obvious, but you're never brought up to realize, like, this is really stupid that, we're the only mammal that drinks another mammal's milk and the only other animal that drinks milk past infancy.
Yeah, it's kind of odd, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And so that just all clicked and made sense. And, especially then reading about how animals are treated, I was just like, all right, I'm done. I'm vegan now. And it was neither of going vegetarian or vegan was not like an easing into process. It was just immediate.
Okay, cool. And you mentioned to me before when we had a chat about Brendan Brazier's influence on you as well.
Yeah, because I started running right before I became vegetarian. So then turning vegan, again, I didn't know any other vegans at the time. And Brendan Brazier's books were really kind of what guided me in terms of doing it, in a healthy way as a vegan athlete. And he kind of just showed me how you can thrive and be successful as a vegan athlete.
And what were the books, so we can let other people know?
The Brendan Brazier books? I think his first one was Thrive. They're all, he has like a bunch of different books and they're all titled Thrive. They just have different subtitles. Like he has some specifically about training, specifically for recipes.
So essentially, yeah, just look, if people Google Brendan Brazier's name and Thrive books.
Yes.
It'll come up with a list of them. Cool.
Yeah, I think he has like 4 of them now.
Okay, cool.
So they're very helpful resources. And he was definitely my inspiration.
Cool. So you mentioned running, and running's quite a big part of your life. So my next question is, what got you into sport and got you into running in particular?
But it was also just came into the time of living in Southern California where the weather is beautiful and people are always out running everywhere and there's races happening all the time. So I kind of got interested in just giving one a try, and I hadn't really trained for it at all. I'd go to the gym in the morning and get on a machine, but never really actually ran or trained to run. So it was kind of it didn't go so well. I started out in the front thinking that I actually knew what I was doing. And I didn't go incredibly fast, but fast enough where I had to take 2 walking breaks during the race, which was kind of difficult for me to deal with. But I was immediately hooked. And after finishing, I was like, all right, I want to do this again. I want to get better. And from there on out, I was racing a lot, like almost every weekend, and started learning how to train and how to fuel right.
And what sort of year was this?
So my first running race was in 2001. Okay. So it was, soon after I had turned, not soon, but, pretty close to when I turned vegetarian.
That's something I didn't know about you. There's a sort of an overlap between your running and being a vegan and vegetarian.
Yeah, and it wasn't, I didn't think of the two together at the time. It was just, vegetarian was something I wanted to do for myself outside of, not really to be healthy. And the running was more of just kind of a health thing for me.
So in a way, the vegan and vegetarian was ethical, and running was a combination, was a health option.
Yes.
So you talked a little bit about you were hooked, and so my next question is, why do you run?
There's so many different reasons why I love to run. I think when I start, it was definitely like a tough time in my life when I started running. So for me, it was a lot of like an emotional release and a mental. A lot of people refer to therapy or running as a form of therapy for them. Okay. It really is just a way to get out and clear your head. And I also just love pushing my limits and testing my limits and, just seeing what I can do. So there's definitely that kind of addiction to it also, of just wanting to always go further or go faster. And
yeah, sort of you said before about like goals, like achieving goals. Like once you have a goal or a race in your head, your pure focus is on competing and racing and winning those races.
Yes, and then as soon as I have one race done, I set another goal, and I love having those goals and something to work towards all the time.
With your running and like having a vegan diet, do you experience people questioning how you can be a successful athlete as a vegan?
I think when people don't know about my athletic accomplishments, they will question it. But for the people who know me and who have seen me race or have raced with me, they never ask, because I think my results speak for themselves and they see that I'm a healthy person. I think definitely what comes up a lot is people thinking that you can't be healthy. Like there's got to be something off in you. Like levels have to be wrong if you're racing as a vegan athlete. And I think that's the biggest misconception, is when people think you can't have longevity in the sport as a vegan athlete, or you can't just be all around healthy. Okay. I mean, it's pretty simple. The only thing that we need to supplement with is B12. And that's as easy as brushing your teeth in the morning, just taking a supplement.
And actually, like, I mean, my understanding of B12 is actually an environmental thing, and B12 is not a vegan only issue.
No, it's not. But yeah, it's the only thing that we need to focus on outside of our normal vegan diets. And I think people don't necessarily understand that or agree with that.
And in some respects, when people are in that mindset, they kind of avoid the ethics as well, don't they? They kind of go like,
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's why it's important to always remind people of, I'm not just doing this for my health. I'm doing it because it's it's deep within me. It's who I am. It's what I believe, and it's not something I would ever go back on. You know, if I couldn't run for any reason, I would never think it's because I'm vegan or I'm not doing something right in my diet.
Yeah.
And, you know, if any doctor would tell me I need to add that stuff back into my diet, I would not listen to them because I know the truth.
Okay, yeah. And also, you'd have to like, I mean, in the UK, a lot of doctors, they're not actually taught nutrition.
No, yeah, same here.
Or they're taught very little nutrition. So it's kind of like you have to take their advice with a pinch of salt.
Exactly.
So this one's sort of about like environments. So considering where you are, it can get as low as 14 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 10 degrees Celsius. So how do you motivate yourself to get out the door and exercise, say, even if it's cold and raining?
I think, again, it comes down to just, you know, some of it is an addiction for me, not just the actual running, but just being driven to get the results that I want. It's not going to happen if I decide to skip a run because the weather outside is bad. You know, I have to always be working towards my goals. And I always find that once you're out there, if the weather is really terrible, it actually makes you, I don't know, it's more invigorating to me when I get out the door in really bad weather and finish like a hard run. I just feel that much more tougher, like physically and mentally, for getting through it. So yeah, it's really just a matter of, you know, it's what I love to do and these are my goals. So I'm going to go out there and do it no matter what the weather.
Okay, interesting. So the next question is, you've done many specialisms, including boxing, duathlons, and marathons. So how did you get into ultra distances?
I think, again, part of it is just I'm always wanting to explore more and go further and try different things and, you know, see what I can do in different sports. But the ultra running came when I lived in southern Pennsylvania for a little while. And during one of my off seasons of racing duathlon and triathlon, I joined up with this group of trail runners, and they're all ultra runners. And it's kind of funny because I think after my first run with them, they said within a year I would be doing an ultra. And I was just like, no, I have no desire to do that, and just kind of brushed them off. And they were absolutely right. Within a year, I did my first 50K and just fell in love with, you know, just not only running on the trails, but just a whole different style of racing where I'm used to doing just everything very high speed and just going from the gun as fast as you can. And this one's, you know, I'm still learning so much about how to race ultras properly. And that's the fun for me, is just learning new things and, you know, pushing myself in different ways.
So the ultra running was it was a suggestion from some of your friends that sort of started you off.
Yes. At first, I just decided to try one just to, you know, see what all the fuss was about. And then I started adding one or two to my racing schedule when I was still racing duathlon and triathlon. And it was just, you know, it was getting difficult because I'm a perfectionist, to be able to get my best results from, you know, totally different sports by trying to train for them both at once. So that's when I decided to switch over to ultra running for a few years and just see where I could take it.
Okay, cool. And you're loving it still?
I am, yes. I do miss the bike, and I think maybe next year I might get back to trying a little bike racing again, but we'll see.
Watch this space, basically.
That's exactly it.
So my next question is, in 2012, you competed in the ITU Duathlon World Championships in France, doing a 10K run, a 37.5 kilometer ride, and a 5K run. Can you talk me through that day?
Yes, I remember that day because that was definitely one of my best races to date. And it was, you know, I was hanging out with some of my Team USA teammates before the race, and one girl in particular was just so extremely nervous. And I think by being around her, it actually brought more calm to me, because I was just really trying to calm her down and just thinking like, wow, she's really nervous. Like, I'm glad I'm not like that. I'm glad I'm just coming into this race. I was expecting to do well, but I was thinking maybe I thought I was going to be racing for silver at best. And I knew exactly who I wanted to kind of race off of in the first run. Actually, a Great Britain athlete.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. So yeah, the gun went off, and I fell in right behind her on the run. And even within like a quarter mile, I felt that I had a lot more in me, and more strength and speed. And I was running like right up behind her, and I could tell that she was like breathing really hard and not struggling, but I could tell she was working a lot harder. So that's when I decided I'm just going to make my move now and go for it. So yeah, I finished the first run in first place, and then I got out on the bike and definitely knew one of my own teammates was way stronger than me on the bike. So I was going through, I think it was a 4-loop course on the bike. So every time we'd come around on these loops, I just kept waiting to see the girls that were chasing me down and who were going to pass me. And every loop I'd go back out, and it was still just me in the lead. And I was just, I couldn't believe it. And I was definitely very stressed at that point, just going as hard as I could, like, maybe I can just hold this lead. And I came off the bike in first place and just had a 5K run left to do. And at that point I was feeling way more confident, because that is my strength. And I was just like, I know I can do this now. And went out on that run and was able to just finish in first. So I raced in first the whole way, and it felt pretty great. But then afterwards, there's other heats of women that started behind us. So even though I crossed the line in first place, I still had to wait for those other women to finish who started later than me, because they could have actually raced faster. So I had to hang around for quite a while on pins and needles, a little anxious, waiting to see the results. And luckily, I was able to hold that first place. And yeah, it was pretty cool.
Awesome. Linking to sport, but this is more about psychology as well. Do you think exercise affects humans' moods?
I definitely do. I guess I can't really speak for everybody, but I know for myself, even just taking, I've taken some time off recently, and I think you get more energy, you start to feel better about yourself, you feel more confident. I definitely see a lot of people gain confidence from exercise, because it just, I think it makes them feel more capable and just overall stronger, and more energy. So yeah, I think it does.
On a biological level, you're creating endorphins as well on some level.
Oh yeah, for sure. And
Yeah,
even
so
just, people that get out and get into the running, 5Ks, whatever they want to do, it's definitely a really welcoming community. And I think a lot of people benefit from that as well. Just getting out there and meeting people who have similar interests and similar goals, and they kind of help lift each other up and push each other.
okay, cool. And that community links nicely to the next couple of questions. So, how and why did you get involved with Strong Hearts Vegan Power?
That's a cool story. When I lived in Syracuse a few years ago, a all vegan cafe opened in town called Strong Hearts Cafe. And I, of course, frequented that place a lot. I ate there all the time. So one of the owners of the restaurant got to know me from being in there all the time. And I had since moved to Pennsylvania, and one day randomly on Facebook got an email from the owner of Strong Hearts Cafe saying, hey, we want to put together this all vegan team of runners to do a Ragnar relay, which is a 200-mile relay race. And he asked if I would be interested in joining the team. And I think I might have just looked at my calendar really quick and right away was just like, yes, I'm in. This is so cool, because I didn't know any other vegan runners at the time. So to be able to have a team of 12 of us, and he had stated the goal is just to go out there as vegans and wear it proudly on our shirts, and try to squash those stereotypes that vegans can't be healthy and they can't be strong runners.
Sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Can you talk me through a recent or memorable event with the group?
Well, sadly, I have not raced with them for a year now because the two that they did this year, I wasn't able to attend. But yeah, so last year we did one in September at the Adirondacks, and we had, I think there was 4 teams there last year of vegans. So that's a lot of vegan runners, wearing.
How many altogether?
It's 48. And then we have drivers too, and all of our drivers are vegan. So, we can have, 50 some people showing up wearing our vegan power shirts that I'm wearing here.
Linking to the shirts,
Mm-hmm.
have you noticed any effects of you guys wearing the Strong Hearts Power t-shirts at events?
Very much so. And I think that's really our biggest thing is the visibility that we have. It definitely prompts a lot of people to come and talk to us. And it's very, very rarely a negative. Like every once in a while, we'll have people that yell bacon at us, which is just, you expect that. You just smile and wave it off. But
you could just like turn it into they saying vegan bacon.
Yeah. But yeah, people they come and, either we have other vegans that come up to us and are just like, oh, wow, it's so cool to see that you guys are out here. And, they're just very excited to know that we exist. But we definitely get a lot of non-vegan people that come and are curious, and they ask us about our diets and ask us about veganism. So it really gives us a lot of opportunities to talk to people about who we are and why we do what we do. And we've had like some really great conversations with people, and people that are really thinking about their choices after talking to us.
That's really, really positive.
It really is, yeah.
And when we had a chat before, you mentioned that on some of the races, that the crowd are literally just shouting, vegan, vegan.
Oh, yeah. People, they see us and they yell, go vegan. And I mean, because there's so many of us, and, people will be like, wow, these vegans are everywhere. And there was one race where we were at an exchange, and we had 2 male runners one was handing off to the next. And I heard people near me saying, oh, there's those vegan power runners. They're really fast. And it's like, yeah, that's right. We're really fast. So yeah, people not only will talk to us and learn more, but even just seeing us and seeing how we perform, I think it really changes perceptions.
It's a really, really interesting and positive thing to plant those seeds. You know what I mean? You're breaking stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
You're advertising a compassionate lifestyle. You know what I mean? It's like you're walking billboards of compassion, basically.
Yeah, and one of our big things too is just, even if we get negative comments, we always just keep it positive. We just want to be like a smiling, fun crowd of people. We're not trying to get angry with anybody or, argue with anybody over ethics. We just want to show people that we're just compassionate, fun human beings.
Cool. And athletic as well, because these races aren't like a walk around the park, are they?
No, and we've a couple times now have put together one competitive team where the goal is to place as highly as we can. And we've come in second overall before, and that's with women mixed in racing against all men teams. So we've definitely shown that we can be super competitive.
Really, really cool stuff. Okay, so now I'm going to start talking a bit about food.
Okay.
So could you just talk me through a standard day of eating for you?
Sure. Typically, a lot of times I'll run in the morning or do some kind of workout in the morning. So usually before that, I'll just have something simple like a banana, and then I'll go and do my workout. And afterwards, I might make some oatmeal and put some like dates and nuts and cinnamon and some chia seeds and mix it all together. So a nice kind of like nourishing post-workout meal. And I'm kind of, I'm a snacker. I'll snack a lot during the day. Like I'll usually have an apple sometime mid-morning with some nut butter. And lunches for me, I love doing like a big salad. So I'll do some greens and spinach. A lot of times beets pretty much always go on my salads. Beets are really good, not just for you, but they're good for athletes too. So
Okay, so you said lunch is a big salads. And
yeah, usually big salad with whatever vegetables I have laying around, I'll put in there, and I'll put tempeh in or beans, some kind of protein. And then for dinner, I try to mix it up a lot for dinner. One of my favorites is, and it's also always my night before a race meal, is a chickpea kale curry. I love curries, and that's another dish that's really good for athletes. And that's because the spices that go into curries are very anti-inflammatory, which is something that athletes want to do, is reduce inflammation. And, using coconut milk has a lot of electrolytes, which is something you want to keep putting into your body as an athlete. So I make, a bunch of different curries. I do one that's, sweet potato and quinoa and chickpeas. I'm big on the Buddha bowls right now. So just kind of mixing in, like this past week I like the cauliflower rice. Have you tried that yet?
I have, yeah, it's gorgeous, isn't it?
It's really lovely. And so I'll do that and maybe roast some sweet potatoes and then cook up some black beans and put some greens in a bowl and do something like that.
And you mentioned before that you make squash spaghetti as well. That might be another option.
Yeah, spaghetti squash. There's a meal that I make. It's, the spaghetti squash comes out, so it's looking kind of like a pasta. And then I'll put some cannellini beans and like a nutritional yeast sauce type dish, put that all together.
And you've got some staples behind you. Could you just run us through them?
Sure. Up there I have my oats that I use to make my oatmeal in the morning. I have lentils. I do like making lentils and rice a lot. That's another just quick and easy staple meal for me. I have my chia seeds up there, which I'll put into my oatmeal. I'll put them into smoothies. Chia seeds are good to sprinkle on anything, really. I have some cashews up there. That's just a good snack for me. Or I'll throw those in oatmeal too. And nutritional yeast up there, which I'll use on avocado toast or throw it into dishes. A lot of the curries I make, like the chickpea kale curry, I use nutritional yeast in that. It's just a nice kind of flavor. It gives it like a creamier texture.
Cool. Lots of variety.
Yeah, I try to. I'm a person who can really fall into a routine of eating the same thing over and over, which isn't necessarily bad, but you do want to mix it up a little bit. So I try to get a couple different dishes into my arsenal.
Awesome. So that was a standard day of eating for you. Could you talk me through a training day of eating?
A training day of eating is actually quite similar to that. I try to eat the same types of foods all the time. Basically, if it's a heavy training day, I might throw something in like a smoothie post-training. And my smoothie is typically, my favorite all-time go-to smoothie is beet juice, tart cherry juice, which is good for inflammation also. And I'll throw like a bunch of kale in there and usually like some frozen blueberries and banana. And I'll do fresh ginger and turmeric and just kind of blend that all up together. So that's just another way to get just a quick dose of, recovery type foods into my body. If it's a heavy training day, I also will definitely go with a curry for dinner because, again, with the anti-inflammatory benefits of the curries. So really, on a heavy training day, it's just kind of eating more calories, but I don't necessarily change up the types of food I eat too much.
So you mentioned there tart cherry. What is that?
Tart cherry juice, it's instead of sweet cherry. So you can have the sweet cherries, and the tart cherries are the more sour ones. So the juice is very it's kind of bitter, but it's really beneficial for anti-inflammatory, and it also is supposed to help you sleep better too, improve your quality of sleep. So I like to add that in. It's kind of rough to drink it on its own. It's not too bad, but mixing it into a smoothie tastes pretty good.
Yeah, with the blueberries and the bananas that you mentioned,
Yes.
those bitter flavors will be sort of subdued by the sweetness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome! It sounds really tasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and easy to make. And you know what I mean. They're not that complicated. Curries and smoothies.
No, yeah, because I work full time and I'm an athlete, and I have to spend a lot of time in the evenings kind of stretching and doing exercises. Everything that I make, I try to keep it very simple and quick so I can just get it in me and work on recovering for the next day.
It's like an efficiency.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So my next question is, how and why did you get involved with Tamerlane Animal Sanctuary?
Okay. The very first Ragnar we did, when I talked about the owner of Strong Hearts Vegan Power reaching out, we had 11 runners and needed one more runner. And one of the people on the team had an active blog as a vegan runner and had this follower who he had talked to, time and time again. And he decided to reach out to him and see if he would want to run with us. And nobody on the team had ever met him or knew him. But he happily joined up with the team, and it turns out his name's Peter, and he and his wife had bought a property, and at that time they had rescued 2 roosters, and soon after decided to actually start Tamerlane Farm Animal Sanctuary and start a full-time operation of taking in, either abused or, animals that were rescued from, their first batch of hens they got were battery hens. So they're the hens that are just confined in this tiny little cage their whole life, used just to be producing eggs. And so it's not a healthy existence. They usually come out of there in really rough shape. And these hens were about to be gassed because they were no longer producing enough eggs to make the company happy. So they took, I think it was 20 some of these battery hens in, and that was where they got their start.
That's really, really inspiring and awesome that they are giving these animals like a second life after they've had these lives of confinement and potential early death.
Yes.
The gassing in this case.
Mm-hmm.
What Tamerlane is offering is a new life for them, a second chance almost.
Sure, and a lot of them do come with issues because they haven't been well taken care of at all. So it's a lot of healthcare involved, and it's a lot of work, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to make sure these hens live out their lives, in the best shape that they can. And since then, they do rescue a lot of roosters, because roosters are very hard to place because they have no use to people, sadly.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah, and since then they've taken a few pigs. Their most recent pig was actually, we have over here 4-H in high school. It's kind of where the students go to learn farming.
Okay.
I don't know if you have something similar over there, but a lot of students will raise a pig to be shown, and then of course the pig goes to slaughter at a very young age. So there are stories more often now where students are making that connection with their animal and realizing that their animal then has to be slaughtered for food, and they don't like that. So this recent addition they got, Pecan, was actually a student who raised the pig and didn't want to see it go to slaughter. So asked Tamerlane Farm Animal Sanctuary if they could take Pecan in and he could live out his life as a happy, healthy pig.
What's coming to mind is the act of Peter and his wife is quite an altruistic one. They are
sure. Yeah, and it's great. It's great. We're all just so incredibly happy that we met them and they're a part of our team because we might not have known about this otherwise. And now for all of our races for Strong Hearts Vegan Power, they are our sole beneficiary. So we're always raising money. I think this past Ragnar that happened last weekend, I think we're over $5,000 right now that we've raised for the sanctuary just by running that race.
In one race?
Yes. So, it's also part of, what we're doing is promoting them and, even other sanctuaries like them, and just kind of exposing people to the fact that these sanctuaries exist and the work that is being done.
It's really, really inspiring because, yeah, like not everybody knows about them. So it's getting that message out there. It's getting the knowledge, sharing the stories, sharing the experiences of the farm with just general people.
Yeah, and the people that come to visit, I think, are sometimes surprised at how loving a chicken can be. That a chicken likes to be held and likes to be loved and likes the attention, where people don't think of them like that. And they'll come and meet a pig that'll come running up to you, happy to see you, and be like, oh, wow, they really are like dogs, even though they actually are smarter than dogs. And so I think for people to come to a sanctuary like this and be able to connect with the animals and see that they have these personalities, it's huge. So the fact that these sanctuaries are popping up and opening their doors for visitors to come and experience it, it's I don't know, I think it's bringing about a lot of change, which is cool.
I'm sure it does. Like any kind of there are lots of ways to plant seeds, and this is a really, really positive one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's how it all ties in with our running teams too, because we're out there running for Tamerlane Farm Animal Sanctuary, and we're very visible as being vegans, and we can talk about what we stand for and why we do what we do. So we are planting those seeds.
Cool, and it's all connected as well. You know what I mean? You're showing the message. You're showing the places that exist that are altruistic and are offering these animals a second chance. It's just really, really positive.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit more about Hanea's visit to Tamerlane Farm Animal Sanctuary?
Yes. I went to school at Syracuse, and I met her my freshman year, Hanea, and we became very close. And our sophomore year of college, we shared an apartment for a little while before she switched schools. So I hadn't seen her for 20 years at least. And I mean, we had connected on Facebook, but had never seen each other again. And somehow the connection was made. She saw me post a picture from Tamerlane Farm with Peter, the owner, and she said, wait a minute, I know him. He works with my father. So it kind of brought Honey and I back together to chat, and her and her fiance were vegetarian at the time. And since we had this connection with Tamerlane Farm, she's like, hey, I want to go visit there. How about you come and, we can reconnect and I can see the farm. And so we did that, and it was pretty cool to see her. And, she brought her father, and her fiance was there, and we just had a great day of visiting the animals and eating really good vegan food. And the next day, Hania and her fiance decided to go vegan after visiting the sanctuary.
Literally the next day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they had any, easing into it or anything, but they announced it the next day that they were going vegan.
That's just really, really positive. Just like an instant effect that seeing these animals. I recently went to a sanctuary and saw this pig and its tail was spinning like a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, if I was a meat eater, I'd be able to make that connection. And it sounds like they may have made some sort of similar connection, that the animals at the sanctuary are individuals.
Yes, and they're very emotional beings. And I think people will see that. I know that Peter and Gabby, who own the sanctuary, have many stories of people that have come to visit and will tell them they've gone vegan after that. So it really, I think I won't say easy, but I think when people can be exposed to things like that, it definitely makes it easier for them to say, okay, I need to stop eating animals and stop eating animal products. It's pretty cool.
It is really cool. It's really cool, and it's really fortunate for you that you know the owner, and being around like-minded people within Strong Hearts Vegan Power. I'm sure that's like very very uplifting and very motivating.
Yeah, I mean it's been life-changing for me for sure, and we hear that over and over from many of our teammates that this experience, has changed their lives because, a lot of us, we've either had some people that maybe weren't into running as much, but were vegan and interested in running. And then we've had people that were just, really hardcore runners and also vegan, but just, you don't always know other people that share those same interests with you. So bringing these teams together, bringing new members in, it's really incredible because we're just like a huge family and we keep growing. And, we have, I think we have like a private team page, and I think there's close to 140 people that have run on our team or will be running on our team. And it's just kind of cool to be able to meet other people who share those same passions as you.
So is anybody welcome to come and join the group?
We're kind of working with that right now. It at first they had to do the Ragnar with us, but of course, most importantly, they had to be vegan, and they have to be vegan for the animals and not for health. So that's really our basis of bringing people in, is they have to be ethical vegans.
Okay, no, that's cool. That's that's how you like to work.
Yeah, I mean, we've had people that maybe haven't even been vegan for a whole year yet and are a little nervous, like, well, I haven't been vegan very long. And it's like, well, if we know that you are committed and that you're doing this for ethical reasons, you're welcome to be with us.
Okay, cool. Well, that was really fascinating and really inspiring. And so basically, thank you for your time, Laura.
Thank you.
And what I'm going to do now, so there's lots of links where people can follow you, what you do a bit more, and sort of keep up to date with what you're doing. So I'm going to run through them now.
Okay.
So if you want to check out Laura's website, it's laurajkline.com. Her Twitter is @LauraJKline. Her Instagram is instagram.com/Laura Kline. There is tamerlanefarm.org, where you can buy and donate. You can buy products from the Tamerlane website, or you can donate what you can afford. There is strongheartsveganpower.org and instagram.com/veganpower. So finally, I just want to say thank you, Laura. And I also want to say, please just keep up doing what you're doing, because it's really positive and really awesome.
Thanks for having me. It was fun chatting, and yeah, maybe we can do it again sometime.
That sounds like a plan.
All right.